Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode here on My Aligned Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Crone. This is our TGIM episode. As I mentioned last Monday, every single Monday of the month of March, I'm going to be talking to you about energetics and mindset and manifestation NLP techniques around sales. This is the month of sales because inside of My Aligned Purpose community, we are running 2 masterminds at the moment. So like always, we have Aligned CEO Method where we're always working with our clients in a 12-month capacity minimum. Most of our clients stick around for a few years, but we're always working with those clients to increase sales and become more confident at selling and feel aligned in their price point, and really coming to the belief that being a salesperson means being of service. You've got something to serve your clients, to serve your community with. Now, at this moment in time, we're also wrapping up our 4-week mastermind called Cash Flow. So Cash Flow is a 4-week intensive mastermind to take women business owners who are maybe newer in their business or at that more foundational stage, or those of you who have had businesses for quite some time but haven't been making the sales that you require. We take those people, those women, and we support them to get sales in the door now. And so far, we're at 100% rate of everybody increasing their sales since joining Cash Flow. This is the second time we've run this mastermind, and it's the second time that we've got 100% track record of everybody getting sales and increasing sales. So that's pretty fucking awesome if you ask me. Last week's episode, if you missed it, you're going to want to go back and listen to TGIM from last Monday, March 3rd. It is all about the energetic shifts that you can make in your business so that you can become a more confident seller. So I'm not going to really get into what that episode was about. Just know that you should go back and listen to it if you haven't already. It's jam-packed full of great ideas. This week, what I want to talk to everybody about are NLP techniques that you can use from me, an NLP practitioner, to rewire your limiting beliefs around sales and money. So before we get into rewiring those sneaky little limiting beliefs, I first want to share a little bit of a story for all of you who are listening to just let you know that I am like you. I'm a regular human being. I've had my fair share of limiting beliefs that I've had to work through, and I still have them. New level, new devil. Even though my expertise is in mindset and it's in NLP and it's in rewiring beliefs, I'm still always going to have my own challenges and different things to work through. But I want to share with you a limiting belief that held me back in the beginning of our business. And it wasn't until I really started to do NLP on myself that I was able to recognize that this was a limiting belief, see how it was holding me back in my own sales, and then reprogram it to believe something different. Because as you've probably heard me say a million times, what we think on repeat creates our beliefs. And what we believe is then how we go out and take action in this world. And then how we go out and take action in this world creates our reality. And then our reality is reflected back to us, that original thought on repeat. So if you're feeling like that you think something often and then you're like, oh, woe is me, like I think that nobody will sign up to my program and then nobody signs up to my program, it's because you think nobody will sign up to your program so often that you create a core belief around that. You create a subconscious belief that nobody will sign up to your program. And then you go out and you operate in the world as somebody who has a program that people wouldn't sign up to, meaning you lack confidence, you don't take action, you're not doing the things to bring sales in the door. And then of course that reflects your reality. And at the end of the month, you go to look at cash in the door and you don't really have any there. And then you reaffirm your original thought process of nobody wants to buy what I have for sale. So when you can recognize that it's your thoughts on repeat that create that belief, that are creating your actions that create your reality, there is magic here, because then it means you get to start from the beginning and create new thoughts on repeat. So when I think back to starting My Aligned Purpose in 2020, and I think about moving into the fall of 2020, and Kayla was going on mat leave with Evie, her first daughter, we were brainstorming up offers and ideas of things that I felt confident I could run and manage on my own that wouldn't require a lot of like systems or back-end work, because I certainly didn't have any experience or expertise or even the confidence to feel like I could run the back end of Kajabi in the first 6 months of our business. So I said to Kayla, I'd feel pretty comfortable running a mastermind 8-week mastermind. I would love to run it on the chakra system. I feel really confident. I know everything that there is to know about the energy centers in our body, both the scientific approach and the Vedic approach. I feel like I could take the 7 chakras, add a bonus week on, create an 8-week mastermind, and create a workbook around that, bring women together for calls each week, and I could teach the energetics. Now, when it came time to think about the price point on this offer, we were thinking about how much time it would take to create this, how much time I would be going live with everybody. We were thinking about the back-end systems and things that would have to get set up beforehand, which would have required Kayla's work. And so then we were thinking about all the things to factor into the price point of this offer. And really, at the end of the day, what was the value of the transformation? Like, what level of transformation was I going to be able to provide these women over the course of 8 weeks together? And I felt pretty confident that I could provide a quite life-changing transformation in 8 weeks. And we started to play around with numbers. And the number that we landed on was $799, $799, let's just say $800. And I believed, a thought on repeat created this belief that nobody would pay $800 for 8 weeks. Now, if I think back to where that sneaky little limiting belief came from, it's because I wouldn't have paid $800 for 8 weeks for something because I didn't have the belief yet that investing in myself, investing in my own growth and my own transformation over an 8-week period or a 2-month period was worth $800. I wasn't earning a high amount of money. I was stuck paying off a lot of student loan and credit card debt. I was newly single, paying for rent on my own. There were just so many different things at play that I personally couldn't hand over $800 for 2 months of learning. So who else would? This is a prime example of how limiting beliefs come into our life and we don't even realize that they're so insidious and that they are so limiting and that they do keep us so small. So oftentimes when I am coaching women now, and I've done 5 deep years of NLP work, of transformational work, of mindset coaching, of supporting people to change their limiting beliefs. I've gotten so many certifications and trainings over the years. I can pick up on a limiting belief in less than 2 minutes of somebody talking to me. For those of you who are listening, you might not be able to pick up on your own limiting beliefs yet. And so the reason I share this story about how my limiting belief that nobody would pay for that could have halted or stunted our own growth in my line purpose of who else would pay for that. Now, luckily, in that moment, Kayla and I were able to sit down and do the math and realize, okay, we just charged $189 for this other program that was 4 weeks. The transformation wasn't as vast. There weren't as many live opportunities. It wasn't masterminding. Like, masterminding has a totally different experience than, say, just course delivery. And so when we were able to discuss that this is absolutely a great price point for the value, for the transformation that people were going to get, I was able to do that work and take myself through my own NLP process to think about what is a belief that I would want to have that would be supportive here. You're hearing from me now in 2025. I can't go back and exactly remember what I was working on or what the belief system was. I suppose I could pull out some journals. But if I had to take a guess, the belief that I would have been working on would have been the opposite to what I felt true at that time. So because I can't afford this, others won't afford it. I had to really work on the belief system that I don't know and I am not responsible for other people's money, for what they value spending their money on, what it is that they're looking for, the transformation that they want to have. I don't know what people have in their savings. I don't know what level of debt people have. Other people's money stories are not my responsibility. And everybody places value on different things and experiences and people and places than one another. Somebody might say that spending $1,000 a month on business coaching with us in Align CEO method is too much money. They could never fathom it, but they go and every single month they get their hair dyed, they get their nails done, they get their Botox filled, they put their filler in, and they do all of these aesthetic things. And I'm not saying that's bad or wrong. I'm just saying that in the same breath of somebody saying that they can't afford business coaching, they might turn around and spend all of their money somewhere else because that's what they value more. People spend money on things that they inherently value or believe is what they want. So if you are working with somebody and they say they can't afford your program or to work with you or whatever it might be, it's not about convincing them about why they should work with you. It's helping them to shift their belief system about, do they really value the work that it is that you have? And how can you help them see that they can value themselves enough to invest in the transformation? So anyways, that's just a little bit of a diverging talk there. But if I do think back to 2020, I think about the limiting beliefs I had to shift, and that was definitely one of them. Just because I felt like I wouldn't invest in something at that price point at that time, did it mean that other people would not invest in that? And really, it wasn't about the cost or the investment. When I dig deep, it was about, am I worthy of receiving $800 a person for this mastermind for these 8 weeks? And what we see inside of My Aligned Purpose when it comes to anything to do with money and sales is that 99% of the time it comes down to one of these 4 pillars. The 4 pillars that make up Manifesting Money Masterclass is that people don't yet truly believe that money is energy and it's a neutral energy, and it is only positively or negatively charged based off of how you feel about it. The second thing is that people aren't aware of their limiting beliefs around money. That was myself. And they then therefore don't know how to flip it to be an inspiring, empowering belief around money. The third thing that we see is that people do not have clarity around what they want for their money. So lots of people are out here saying that they want to have $8,000 months, $10,000 months, 6-figure years, 7-figure years, but they don't actually know what they want to do with that money. They haven't mapped out that if they all of a sudden their business was to explode and hundreds of new clients were to roll in and you were getting all of this money every single month, do you know how to manage that money? Do you know how much money you'd have to put aside for taxes? Do you know how much money you would have to put aside to keep your business afloat, and like all of these different pockets? And then what do you want to do with that extra money? Oftentimes people think that this elusive 5-figure month will be the thing that saves the day. If I can just have a $10,000 month, but then they're not actually sitting down and getting clear on what a $10,000 month would look like for them. And not just one month. You don't want to have just one $10,000 month. Do you know what it would look like, feel like, be like in your business if every single month consistently you were making $10,000? That's something to get clear on. And then the fourth thing that we see that, really is a big issue here between women in sales and women in money is their worthiness around money. So when I reflect back to myself in 2020, there was definitely some worthiness work that I had to do around being the person who could receive that kind of money out of something I made up, something I created. Was I okay to be paid more than that as a teacher by the government? Here's our curriculum, go teach it and we'll pay you. Yes. But when it came to, here's the thing you created, go out and sell it and put this price point on it. Do you feel worthy of that? I did not. So I had some work to do. So when we think about some common limiting beliefs around sales, a few that I hear that come up over and over again are people have a fear or limiting belief around sounding too salesy, that people will think that they're too expensive, that they'll come off as greedy, that selling feels uncomfortable. So if you're listening to this and you resonate with any of those, feeling greedy, feeling salesy, it feels uncomfortable, who will pay for that, then this episode is definitely for you. We are here to talk about the NLP to reprogram the limiting beliefs that are blocking you from having the sales and the money and the cash flow in your business that you desire. Now, when I think about the limiting belief of who would pay for that, this has also come up again recently, and you may have heard me share this on our Instagram stories in the last week, where Kayla and I had our first coaching call with our new coach, Chris, and we were doing this equation where we were figuring out the cost of our time and how much each of our programs would cost and how much it would cost to work with us one-to-one and how much Kayla's Done For You Kajabi would cost and all of these sorts of things. And it was a whole equation, a mathematical equation. When it came down to was that we are grossly undercharging for one-to-one. We have one one-to-one client, and the offer exists. There's space for more people to work with us one-to-one, and grossly undercharging for Kayla's done for you Kajabi work based off of this mathematical equation. So when we figured out how much it would be, Kayla's done for you Kajabi, the equation brought out that it would be 14,000 US. And to work with us 2-to-1 for a year and get access to everything we've created, 4 in-person VIP days, one of them being like a roll out the red carpet, photo shoot, branding, all of that sort of stuff, to access to all of our courses and products, our She Leads event, plus one-to-one coaching calls every month and unlimited access inside of WhatsApp. When we added that up, the price point on that offer was 86,000 US. And right away, I had a full body no. I don't know anybody who would pay for that. So that goes to that limiting belief, right? When you think who would pay for this? I had that experience just in the last month of I don't know people that would pay for that. Yet Kayla and I are essentially paying for that in our coaching program. And our previous coach, Fabienne, charges $100,000 to work with her one-to-one. And I know lots of coaches that charge $60, $80, $100,000+ a year to work with them. But I feel I don't, and here's my limiting belief, I don't know anybody who would pay that to work with us in that capacity. Even though I know we are a wealth of knowledge, that my vision can take somebody far and wide beyond anywhere where they could ever go. Kayla's one-to-one support with your systems and your strategy and implementing all that, like to hire that externally would cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So I know that the value that we have is above and beyond the 86,000, but it's getting around the limiting belief that I don't personally know people who would pay for that. So if I wanted to rework that limiting belief, I would have to start to think, where can I find people who would pay for that? Do I know people would pay for that? Yes, as I just mentioned, we would. Our past coach charges that. We know people that would pay for that. It's just a matter of, do I know people who would pay for that? And this comes back to me believing or thinking. This comes back to me thinking or believing that I know everybody's money situation and I know what they want to pay for when I don't. But that limiting belief keeps me safe. It keeps me charging this amount instead of that amount. So I really want everybody to take a moment and think about how limiting beliefs that you have are keeping you safe and small, right here where you are, protected, secure, predictable. But when you step outside of that, when you get past the, I'm afraid of coming off as too salesy, or that I don't know anybody that would pay for that, or you move past, I would feel greedy, or whatever it might be, what is on the other side of that? And what would it prompt you to do? What would it mean you would have to do? What actions would you have to take? We're doing with the actions that we're taking to move past these limiting beliefs is we are upping our prices. We've put ourselves in a mastermind with other 7 and 8 figure earners. The commitment to be in the mastermind that we joined with our coach is that your business has to make a minimum of $500,000 a year. So we're around all these other business owners who are making at least $500,000 a year in their business, but we're like small fish, big pond. Most of the people inside of our mastermind are 7 and 8 figure earners annually. They're making lots and lots and lots of money. Do they know people that would want to coach with us? Do they know people who would want to be a part of My Aligned Purpose? Absolutely. That's the whole point of a mastermind is you pay to play. You pay to get into the room. You pay the money to connect and to network. And so we are putting ourselves extremely outside of our comfort zones by investing in a mastermind that feels above and beyond what we've ever invested in, knowing that our return of investment will be in the room. And this is what we always say to people when we're talking about our masterminds is you're one introduction away from somebody inside of our mastermind that could completely change your business. If the system support that you require for your business is not available through myself or Kayla or the resources in Aligned CEO Method, it's available through somebody in Aligned CEO Method. And this comes down to, again, who, not how. So if you're thinking about like, how can I figure this out or how can I figure that out? I want you to ask yourself, who can I connect with that can help me figure this out? Who, not how. So there are so many different ways that you can start to retrain your brain to think differently, to think bigger, to think outside of the box, to put down scarcity mindset, and to move forward with sales in your business. Okay, so the first NLP technique that we're going to get into today is parts integration. Okay, parts integration. You may have heard me talk about this before, or if you've done NLP work with me directly, we're going to be accessing different parts of who you are, your identity, and integrating them into other parts of who you are and your identity. For this particular exercise of the parts integration, we are going to befriend money. If money feels like something scary, something to be afraid of, something to resist, something to deflect from, say you don't open your bills or you never check the CRA or you're never doing the things that you're supposed to be doing with money, you're not increasing your sales, you're not pitching yourself, we are going to stop that today, and we're going to do parts integration work using NLP and befriend money. So in order to do this exercise, we're going to start with 3 parts. The first part is I want you to identify the part of you that feels resistance to selling. So you need to be able to identify the part of you that feels resistant to selling. It might be the part of you that doesn't feel worthy enough. It might be the part of you that got told she was too bossy, so now you're playing it small. It might be the part of you that a parent or a teacher or a sibling told you to not raise your voice. You're too much. So now you're quiet, you're holding back, you're refraining. I want you to identify the part of you, the version of you. It's either little you, it's teenager you, it's 20-year-old you, it's you yesterday, it's you today, but the part of you that is resisting selling. Okay, so that's it. I want you to identify that. The second thing I want you to do is have a compassionate dialogue. Finding compassion within yourself, talking to this part of yourself as if you were talking to somebody you deeply care for and deeply love. That might be your spouse, it might be your child, it might be your pet, it might be your sister, whatever it is. And I want you to talk to this part of yourself with as much compassion as you would for someone else. Okay, so we're identifying the part that has resistance to selling. We're going to have a compassionate dialogue with that part of ourselves. And the third thing I want you to do is reframe that protective intention that you feel like you might have, like you're protecting yourself or that part of you is protecting yourself, into empowering intention. Okay, so how can you move from, I'm just trying to play it safe and keep small and all the things that part of you is doing, to being really empowering? If you were to empower someone you love, what words would you share with them? What actions would you provide them to take? I want you to have that same conversation with that part of yourself. So there's the part of you that is listening to this podcast that knows that if you approach that part of yourself with empowerment and excitement and intention, you could approach sales completely differently. So here's what you can do, as long as you're not driving or anything like that, or maybe you want to come back to this part of the podcast, but I want you to close your eyes and I want you to visualize the part of you that feels scared to sell, that part of you that is coming up against limiting beliefs, is coming up against some self-sabotaging tendencies. And I want you to close your eyes. Maybe you want to take your hand to your heart. And I want you to tap into that part of yourself. And I want you to ask her or ask him, what is it that you are really afraid of? What is it that you are really, truly scared of? I want you to ask that part of yourself, what are you trying to protect me from? What do you feel that you are protecting me from? And I want you to listen to that. I want you to really listen to what comes up without judgment. And without judgment, I want you to start a negotiation with this part of yourself. I want you to negotiate, can we move from this protector type of energy into a supportive energy? I want to make sales. I want to be of service. I want to be more confident. I want to have empowering beliefs. Are you on board? Can we do this? Let's move towards abundance together. Okay, I want you to really tap in to that part of yourself from this part of yourself. Have a compassionate dialogue. Listen without judgment. Ask what it is that you're being protected from, what it is that you're scared of. And can that part of yourself get on board with being a supporter rather than a protector? So that's NLP exercise 1, parts integration. Now let's move into the second and third exercise for this podcast episode. The second part of the NLP exercise that you can do, again, all of these things are going to require you to have some time and space. And so if you're listening to this while driving, please pop me back in again later today or whenever you might be listening and really take the time to do these exercises. NLP is incredibly fast. It's one of the fastest tools I've ever seen to move from a limiting belief to an empowering belief. And the second one is called timeline therapy. And I've done this with our clients many times over the years. Timeline therapy is when you create the timeline of when you can recognize your limiting belief started. So specifically with around money. And so if I was to go back to the 2020 version of me who said, I don't know, I wouldn't be able to pay for this, so I don't know other people that would pay for that, I would start to think back to where did I start to pick up limiting money beliefs along the way? And I know that I could trace it back to childhood. And I can't think of a specific moment in time, but I can think of a feeling of time as a child where I know I really wanted to go to Disney World as a kid. And I can remember hearing that we didn't have that kind of money. Whatever that kind of money was, we didn't have it. And so in my mind, there were two types of people. There were the types of people who had money, that kind of money, and there were the types of people who didn't have that kind of money. And whatever that kind of money is, was pretty elusive, still is pretty elusive. And so then if I start to create a timeline of maybe around 7 or 8 years old, forming pretty solid memories and thinking about what I heard about money at that time, and then I can think about how that played out throughout my life. And then especially if I fast forward into 2020 and thinking about charging for something I created on my own, if I don't have that kind of money, then other people around me must not have that kind of money because I only know people who are like me, right? Because growing up, I only knew people who were like me. My friends and my family, we all had the same financial experiences, or so it seemed. None of my friends were really going to Disney World as a kid. So I think that if I reflect back and I do this timeline therapy on myself in real time while talking to you, I can very easily see along the timeline that I have created two types of people and two types of experiences with money, even though I now know that money is neutral and there are 8 billion people on the planet and there is an absolute spectrum of money. There is like absolute poverty, and then there's the 1%, and then everything in between in the middle. And it's not black or white, and it's not just this or that. And really being able to create a new experience for myself, my timeline really took a shift in 2020 when I really started to do money mindset work. What I mean by money mindset work is in the creation of Manifesting Money Masterclass and taking myself through Manifesting Money Masterclass over and over and over again. We've had over 600 women take that program. It is an absolute game changer. When I think about pivotal books that I've read about money, I'll list a few of them here. You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero, We Should All Be Millionaires, Rachel Rogers, Money Magic by Michelle Masters, Rich as Fuck, Amanda Francis. I'm trying to think other books. Oh, Money, A Love Story by Kate Northrup. Like all of these money books, I was just eating up. I couldn't get enough of them. I wanted to learn everything I could about money. I can really see a shift in my timeline. So the part 2 of this podcast of the NLP exercise is to take yourself on a timeline therapy, releasing past money wounds. So any money stories that you have for yourself, if it supports you to draw a physical timeline, whether it's vertical, horizontal, whatever way your mind thinks or sees things, if it's in pictures, if it's journaling it out or just sitting in visualization, I want you to take yourself through the limiting belief that you had, trace it back to where you can remember it starting, see how it played out in your life, bring yourself to here so that you have the clear timeline first. Then you're going to take yourself back to that version of you. So I would take myself back to 7 or 8 year old Nicole, knowing that I wanted to go to Disney World and that we didn't have that kind of money. I would rewrite that story. What would be different in my life, if that's just a past memory now and all I'm doing is reliving it? What would happen if I just allowed myself to play out the version of what if we did have that kind of money and I did go to Disney World as a kid, and what would be my different experiences throughout my lifetime, and where would I desire that to lead me to be today with my money story? Can you make up the past, since it's already done anyway, and we're always just making up the future, and decide how you want to feel today in this moment with your money, and then create a new timeline moving forward? So the timeline therapy really allows you to look at how you feel about something now, trace it back to where you recognize it started. What if you changed how you felt in that time, if you could just make it work in your favor? Walk yourself back through the timeline to the present moment, and then project a future that hasn't happened yet. That's just called daydreaming. And project a future where you're on the timeline that feels really good. If your future timeline, you see yourself on stages, writing books, hosting events, having a 7-figure business, traveling the world, whatever it is, XYZ. If you're going to do this exercise and you're going to project yourself into the future with all of those things, is the current version of you going to allow you to get there, or do you need to change some limiting beliefs today? Because if that is your truth, which for most of us it is, guess what? This is exciting news. You get to change your limiting beliefs today so that you get there and it feels really good and it feels really aligned. So that in the future, you don't have to do a timeline exercise back to March 2025. You're doing the work today. We're changing the beliefs today. The thing that's most important with timeline therapy and NLP that I want to stress is that we release the emotional charge. So I don't have any emotional charge attached to 7, 8-year-old Nicole who heard that we didn't have that kind of money to go to Disney World. I don't have any charged emotion around that at all anymore. Maybe I once did, but I don't anymore. I've been able to release that and let that go. I know that I am the creator of my future. I know that the best way to predict your future is to create it. I know that I can change everything in the trajectory of where I want to go by changing my thoughts first. So you get to release the charge when you go back to that moment in time. And I had a really good upbringing, but maybe your upbringing, you had parents that yelled a lot or neglected a lot or whatever it might be. And you're listening to this and you're thinking, it's not that easy to let go of that emotional charge. I invite you to think about, what is that emotional charge doing for you today? What if you gave yourself the permission to say, that has happened and it did suck, but I'm not going to continue to carry that for the rest of my life. I'm going to choose to do the things to put that down today. The third NLP technique that we're going to cover today is one of my favorites, and it's the submodality shift. We're going to submodality shift. We're going to transform your internal money representation. We're going to transform it. Are you ready? Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is to be able to identify how you internally represent money. So that might be with a sound, with a picture, with an image, with a feeling. So when you think about money, yeah, you might think of a paper, you might think of logging into your bank account, but what is the feeling state that you internally have associated with money? Because whatever that is, if it is not lighting you up, if it's not super fucking exciting, then that's what we're going to do with the submodality shift. So say, for example, when you close your eyes and you think about money, and you're being honest with yourself, and what comes up for you is like something that feels dark, sludgy, heavy, negative, fearful, whatever it might be, your submodality shift here is going to be to create the image of money in your mind. And if it's dark, you're going to make it bright. If it's small, you're going to make it big. If it's fuzzy, doesn't feel clear, you don't really understand what it is that you're supposed to do with money, you're going to see it crystal clear in your mind's eye. What you want to be able to do here is to create new neurological connections to money. So one of the examples that I've given so many times in different trainings that we've done is your language around money. So oftentimes people will create sentences, they're trying to build affirmations for themselves, and they'll create sentences that go something like, money is really fun to make, but then they have this subconscious belief about money and it's not fun. And then they can never seem to believe the affirmation that they're creating for themselves. And I like to remind people that's because NLP is incredibly powerful when it comes to your words, when it comes to your dialogue and your language. So you need to re-switch. We need to do a submodality shift and put money as the word that comes after the feeling state. So rather than saying money is really fun to make, and what happens as soon as your brain hears money, you're creating this neurological connection. It's like you've got a Rolodex of images in your mind about money. And so then as soon as I hear money is fun to make, what happens is my brain hears money, and it might go back to 7-year-old me hearing that we don't make that kind of money. And then I'm having a really hard time thinking about how that could be fun. But if you switch it up and you say, it's really fun, right away, fun, my brain is, once again, neurologically, it's going through all of the images I have associated to fun. And I think about this trip that I had to Thailand and it was so much fun. And I think about that. And then I think it's really fun to make money. Now I've been able to actually get my body on board with what fun feels like. And this all happens so fast, you don't even realize it's happening. But I get my body on board with fun and then I attach money to it. Now I can create a new belief. It's really fun to make money. That is going to be way more of a powerful affirmation for you than money is fun to make. Something as simple as that. That is a submodality shift, going from money is fun to make to it's fun to make money. If you love this kind of stuff, we need to work together. You need to come into Aligned CEO Method. This is how I am supporting with my work women to transform their relationship with money, their relationship with sales. This is how we get women who come to us who have not been doing really well in their business, and all of a sudden they start crushing it with sales, because we make these little tweaks that get your brain and your body on board with believing what it is you actually want. You can say that you want a 6 or 7 figure business, but unless you are doing the internal NLP work to get your body to believe that's what you really want and to rewire all of this past programming, I believe that's what my gift is, to help women reprogram the pattern of everything in their life, reprogram the pattern of sales, reprogram the pattern of marketing, reprogram the pattern of being an employee to an entrepreneur. It's all NLP. It's so much fun. I love doing this episode with you. I love sharing these techniques with you. Make sure that if you've enjoyed this episode, these 3 ways to use NLP to transform how you believe about money and sales. If you loved it, subscribe, leave a review, share with a friend. Come back every Monday and listen to TGIM. It's always mindset, manifestation, energetics around life, business, sales. I love being here with all of you. And remember, NLP and this whole episode and everything I teach, they're not just techniques. This is a portal to a more abundant you. It's a more abundant you. For anyone, this is what I love about having a business that's online and I get to be so transparent, is that there's no gatekeeping here. And I have so many people in my life that knew me 5+ years ago and know me now. And they know that I'm living, breathing, walking proof of somebody who had tons of credit card debt, tons of student loan debt, just totally living in like a closed money mindset. I did not believe in saving. I just had so many limiting beliefs around money. And now I have this 7-figure business and I'm in an incredible coaching program, and I'm recording this from my home studio, my home office. I live a block away from the beach. I'm about to sign off and go for a walk with my husband down to the beach. I am heading on a couple trips this month. I'm going to Orange County and I'm going to Cabo, and I've got Arizona lined up and LA and all these fun things. And I feel so incredibly abundant. And that is because I've changed my mindset. It's because I've changed my mindset. It's because I've invested in coaching. It's because I have a business. I don't have a cap on what I can earn. I know it's available for all of you too. I want to work together if we're not already working together. For those of you who are in Aligned CEO Method, I love you. You're the best. For those of you in cash flow, would love to see you in Aligned CEO Method. Let's do this. Let's make a lot of money, have a lot of fun, do a lot of good in the world, and continue to grow together and up level together and support one another together and challenge each other and stretch one another. That's what coaching is really all about. That's what these episodes are all about. They're here to support you, to push you, to encourage you, to have you thinking differently. Okay, and before we go, if it's feeling like these 3 different NLP strategies are too much, wow, that's a lot, choose one. Which one do you want to try them right now? Do you want to do timeline therapy and envision yourself like floating above yourself and seeing you go back into that past version of your life and then get to this current version and rewrite the story so that it works out in your favor, remove the charge, project the future, have fun? Does that work for you? Do you want to try on the technique that we just tried? It's the submodality shift, where you start to think about how you see and relate to money differently and create new ideas and experiences and affirmations for that. Or is it the first first one we discussed, the parts integration. Do you want to identify the part of you that is trying to protect yourself and get her on board with the part of you that wants to be empowered and supported, and integrate those parts together? You could choose just one. You could get into the visualization, get into your body, get into the energy. You could journal this out. And most importantly, whichever one you decide to do, send me a message over on Instagram, MyLine Purpose on Instagram. Let me know what you tried, how it worked, and let us know that you've made a sale after listening to this episode. Okay. Bye for now. I'll be back next week. March is the month of sales. We're talking about all energetics, mindset, and manifestation around sales on the podcast every single Monday. So make sure, if you're not already subscribed, that you hit that subscribe button either here on YouTube or over on the podcast. And we'll be back next week. This podcast episode is being sponsored by Blackbird Creative. At Blackbird Creative, they specialize in empowering female entrepreneurs and helping them make big waves in their industries. As a professional brand photographer, they work with ambitious women ready to take their businesses to new heights with polished, creative, and strategic brand photography. Together, they'll craft your visuals that will not only reflect your vision, but position your brand as a standout leader in your field. Ready to transform your business? Go create something extraordinary with Blackbird Creative. Blackbird Creative is also the official brand photographer for She Leads 2025, happening April 25th and 26th at the Oak Bay Beach Hotel in Victoria, British Columbia.